Trustee Ron Wilson.
Here.
Trustee Walt Lashevsky.
Here.
Trustee Neil Gaynor.
Here.
Trustee Brad Hauk.
Here.
Trustee Keith Maggart, excuse me.
Here.
Trustee Keith Lincoln. Keith is not here at this moment. Trustee David Smith.
Here.
Trustee Hugh Connett.
Here.
Trustee Bob Lux is here. Trustee Paul Martin.
Here.
Here, good. We have a forum. We can proceed with the opening invocation and the pledges of allegiance. Heavenly Father, we come to you today as an assembled body. We humbly request that you bless our meeting, our community, and our nation. Help us to work diligently, always for the common good and in the best interest of those who we have been elected to represent. Guide us to be insightful and prudent in our intentions, visions, plans, deliberations, decisions, and their fulfillment. Work through us to provide a spirit of welcome to all in attendance. Encourage and engage in respectful and thoughtful dialogue and discussion with understanding, wisdom, and humility. Amen. If you wish, prior to reciting the pledges of allegiance, please take an additional moment of silent prayer or reflection in the manner of your preference. Thank you. Pledge to the flag of the United States of America. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Pledge to the Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you. Shelley, do we have any comments from the public tonight? No, thank you. That brings us to agenda item 4, receiving an update on the Region H from Arthur Bredehoff. Good evening, Arthur.
Mr. President, trustees, senior staff, and the public. In my last report, I indicated that Region H had completed the 26th water plan, and it was filed with the Texas Water Development Board before October 20th of 25. The Texas Water Development Board next week will adopt the Region H plan at their meeting on the 22nd of January. The kickoff for the next 5-year planning cycle will take place on February the 4th for our first meeting of 2026. And we'll come back to the trustee board on February the 11th to report out what we did in our first meeting. But the next 5-year cycle starts, and it starts on February the 4th. Also, too, once they approve the Region H plan, we'll let you know, and we'll put, if there's a link, we'll make sure Shelley has the link to put it on the Region H folder in the G drive. But I would encourage everyone to look at the Texas Water Development Board website. It's quite interactive. There's a lot of economic data out there on all the different regions in the state. So it's really a well-done website. They keep it up to date, and they try to bring the latest and greatest on what's going on with water for the residents of Texas. In particular, it's a good site for anybody that serves on water districts or special purpose districts. And that would conclude my report.
Thank you, sir.
Pleasure to be here.
Well done. Nice to see you. Okay, that brings us to agenda item 5, receive an update from Region 6 San Jacinto Regional Flood Planning Group. Imelda Diaz could not make it this evening, and we have Trustee Gaynor to fulfill the obligation.
Thank you. The last meeting of SJA, the San Jacinto Regional Flood Planning Group, was intended to be held on January 8th. it was canceled. In fact, on the website, it simply says canceled, no reason given. And so Ms. Diaz did not have an update for us as she had hoped to provide. However, that being said, I just want to bring trustees' attention to a study published on the Houston-Galveston subsidence district, evaluation of subsidence impacts in the Spring Creek watershed. As you are aware, one consequence of groundwater pumping is land subsidence. If the pumping goes into the inelastic collapse of clays, especially, and therefore there are impacts with regard to flooding. I had intended to ask Ms. Diaz, she's the upper watershed representative, how the San Jacinto Regional Flood Planning Group was going to incorporate this new information in their planning. But I would recommend to all, because this certainly impacts the Woodlands potentially, to go onto the website, and I can give the link to Shelley to have a look at this report and be informed. And please come back with questions to pass forward to the flood planning group.
Is there a download that you can,
Yeah. I mean, you just go to the website.
I mean, could she send us the download?
Well,
Is it, okay.
I mean, you just go to the page where the study is, and then there's several PDFs you
Go to
can
the page of
download,
downloaded one.
or you can read on the website.
Galveston.
Subsidence. I'll get the website to Shelley. So, yeah, HGSD, and then you should be able to find that easily enough. Okay, that's my report.
Thank you, sir. Okay, that brings us to the consent agenda. Just before we begin, agenda item number 9, the resolution adopting the list of qualified brokers is being deferred to the January meeting. Okay, that would be, excuse me, pardon me, the February meeting. Okay, that take the consent agenda is pages 1 through 25.
Move to accept as presented.
We have a motion, we have a second.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion on this matter? All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes. Thank you. That brings us to agenda item 10. Review and consider the approval of the Woodlands Water Agency fiscal year 2024-2025 draft audit report. We have John Knox here to present on behalf of the audit.
Everything went well. We had significant discussions with your audit committee, and they found they had a lot of comments, and we've worked through them, and we're here just to answer any questions you may have regarding the audit. If you've had a chance to look at it.
One question, I noticed that the, financial analysis on page 6, the total assets nearly double.
Right.
What's the driver of that?
Most of that, if we turn to page 10, you had an increase in your due from participants, we had an increase in your cash, but most of that increase are some new leased assets and a subscription IT asset that added up to almost 1.5 million right there. And then your
software.
yes, software, yes, sir. And that's about 1.5 million. And then I know your participants went up about $1 million, or your due from participants went up about $1 million, and your cash went up about almost 400,000. That makes up most of the difference.
John, would you just say a couple words about the accounting, or I've forgotten the Arabic or the letters designation, but the reason you have to identify this IT asset now. Separately.
There's a new GASB that came out that redefined how we report leased assets and subscription assets. And it's actually, described. On page 14 at the bottom. So basically, when we get into an uncancelable lease or these subscriptions, we have to capitalize them. We have to record the debt related to them, the future payments in connection with it. And this is a new pronouncement. And of course, we had just had this happen last year as well.
Also called out note 4, right?
Sorry?
It's also called out note
Oh, I
4.
bet it is, yeah.
Yeah, if you want to see the numbers, Dave.
Yeah, the lease breaks down the amortization of the payments and so forth on the subscription and the office lease. But yeah, on the page 6, the current assets increased by 1.7 million, and most of that is just what's due from the MUDs. That'll come down, and then of course the capital assets increased almost quadrupled because of the subscription and the leases.
Further questions for John? Anyone? Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
Brian, do we need a motion to?
Well, we have a recommendation from the committee.
We have a recommendation from the audit committee to approve the report.
Doesn't require a second.
Right, so can we vote on that at this time, or should that be done? Okay. We have a motion from the audit committee to accept the report as amended. When they received it, it was amended and reviewed here this evening. Do we have a motion? We have a motion to accept, so further discussion on this item by anyone? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain? Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, that brings us to agenda item 11. Receive and the regular monthly SJRA Woodlands Division report. Chris Meeks, good evening.
Good evening. How are y'all? Good. That's all I have. It'll be that easy. So a few things to go through. One thing is we did not include the GRP monthly operations report in your packet. So there is a printed copy that was passed out prior to. Did get it to Shelley, so it is going to be in the MUD package for next week. So no, you haven't had to review it, but if you have any questions, we can cover them now if you see something, or next week as well. General course of business of GRP. So then in your packet, you do have 2 months worth of operating reports for the Woodlands, since we did not meet in December with y'all. So you do have November and December's in there. Nothing really out of the ordinary. We are still working with Woodlands Water on the water loss. Looking into that to see exactly where it comes from. I know some of it was found. We went back and double checked that we did include all the water loss for MUD 36, and that has been included. Their bills are accurate. And so right now we're just working with Woodlands Water to see if there's anything we can find between billing and production. Work in progress.
So Chris, when
Yeah.
October went down like a lot and then it kind of bounced back up in the November report, do you think October is realistic? Is October closed and good, or is it we still how far back are we still like hunting for reconciliation?
September was the off month. It was reported in October. Yeah, June was too, not to the same degree as September.
Do we feel good about October and November being real? That's my question.
No, I mean,
Is it a trailing concern or is it just a single month?
Oh, we believe it's just that June was the smaller
Outlier.
blip, but the bigger one was in September.
Right, I see that.
Right, and so we found some of it in the billing software, but we've not found the majority of it. So we met last week to kind of brainstorm from both sides, from the delivery side, which is SDRA, and then the billing side from us, to see if there's, anything that we haven't thought of. And so we're still investigating. We're digging a little deeper in the billing side of things, trying to get some different reports to see if there's something that's hitting, but we're not seeing it.
Who owns the fire hydrants? That's right.
The what?
The fire hydrants,
Flush valves are ours.
they're ours. Could you have people pulling up and filling water tanks?
I mean, not for 100 million gallons.
A lot of tanks.
Yes, that
A lot of water
Lot of
tanks.
trucks.
Yes, we try. Right, and but I mean, sometimes folks find a back alley somewhere, and that might be the spot they go. But to this magnitude, no, I wouldn't. I mean, we've thought about that. You also, if we miss estimated some leaks. Now there were some leaks during this time, but we've estimated those. That's included in the number. So that's baffling. I mean, so we're just picking off all of the what could it be's, trying to figure out what it is. So we're still working. We haven't given up.
And it ended, so.
And then it went back to, yeah, right. So it wasn't a reoccurring, if there was a glitch, it came and went, which is strange.
Do we pay for that 10% shortage? I'm talking about Woodlands Water. We pay whatever they build us, and then we're short, so we're all got to come up with that money, right?
Yeah, it's built into the rate already.
Well, but it's built in at 3 or 4%, right, instead of 15.
Right, but
The average.
yeah, it's produced, so it's in the electrical cost and everything else. It's paid for monthly.
No, I understand that, but you sent us a bill for X amount of gallons of water, and we only collected 85 cents. So,
Right.
So we're on the hook.
No,
I'm talking about.
yeah. We're not gonna
talking
send
about-
you a bill
we're not-
for it. Yeah. We're not gonna send you, no, even the 4%, if it goes up to 5 or goes down to 3, there's no difference. Now, if we go over budget, we may come back and do a cash call at that point and say, we lost that, but month to month, you're not gonna see that.
Okay, that's my question. So basically, it's the estimated loss for the year that we get billed on a monthly basis. You put that 4% on
That's in
whatever
the
you
budget.
deliver
Yeah,
for that
that's in the
month.
rate.
You got,
Okay.
right,
It's 4% a year for 26
right.
as well as.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right, thanks.
Right, it's page 28. Yes, loves E. coli. If you look in, June and August, the E. coli rate jumped. An explanation for
I do not have one off the top of my head, but I will research. You're looking at the,
that? Yeah, the table.
peanut plant too, 18 in
Yeah,
June
that's
and.
right, yeah, 18 and 14.
Yeah, no, let me double check, or let me check on that, and I'll get Eric a response he can get to y'all.
Don't forget the February for wastewater treatment platform.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Don't forget, I'm sorry,
The February 25 E. coli. From
we will check on
treatment
that.
platform.
We do have some excursion reports
Yeah.
we do occasionally if they do go over budget. I know it's under the single graph that we require to have, but as y'all know, with,
You're still way under the permit.
yeah, we're still good on permit, there's no violation, but E. coli is very fickle, right? So if you run your finger over it, something blows to the air, something like that happened, you can get a higher result. Now, the thing is, excuse me, usually if you do something like that, it's in 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 range because you work at a wastewater plant and what's going to flow in there. So, but I'll check on those three much.
You don't continuously sample E. coli, right?
Single time grab. So it could have been something in the bucket that we put in there to collect it because we put that in there. And then, put the top on it. Could have been loading in. We've had people put the caps in their pocket before, bring it back out, put it on there. That was about 23,000. So, but I will check on it.
Is there any cost?
Operator did.
Like Capra beans.
Any other questions on the monthly reports?
I do. Is the item on page 56 part of this agenda item?
Yes, there's the next thing I'm going to cover once we're done with the reports.
Oh, okay.
Then the other one I had was 39. When you talk about wells 3, 7, 13, 15, 30 that pumps have failed, does that mean that well shut down?
It is.
Yes.
Correct.
And so as part of when they go out of service, there is redundancy, there is surface water. So 2 of those 3 are being worked on this fiscal year. And then the remainder will be next fiscal year. So rather than coming and saying we have these 5 wells down, we want them up now, we need a cash call, we're trying to find the money, we just phase them in. That's why you end up with 2 to 3 wells rehab per year. Yes, sir.
Well, it's listed twice, but on page 35, the disinfectant study shows to be due in February next month. Are we close? Do we expect that to come in on time?
It may be the beginning of March, but everything I've heard is basically towards the end of February.
Okay. So we won't see it in February's meeting. We'll see it in March meeting.
As soon as I get something, Eric will get it, then we'll get it chipped.
Thank you.
All right, moving to page 56. So what you have in 56 is, some of y'all may recall, with the wastewater strategic plan, a project that came from that was to look at the conveyance system behind wastewater plant 1. There's 5 lift stations, and we were going to look to see if it was feasible economically and condition wise to consolidate those into maintenance. That project, constructed, designed, everything else was roughly around $60 million. So y'all authorized, I think it was in March of 23 or 24 sometime, to go ahead and do a feasibility assessment, cost assessment, so on and so forth. All those studies are now done. There's about 200 pages uploaded to the Google Drive for y'all to take a look at. And so what we're going to start doing is, instead of just giving y'all a report and kind of letting y'all guess what we're recommending, similar to what we did with the AC study, is you have the report, page 56 is our recommendation. And so what we're looking for with this recommendation is in March, for y'all to make a decision on which way y'all would like to go. What we're recommending is to stay what I call status quo. Do not consolidate the lift stations and essentially go back to the original project and replace lift station 5's force main. Lift station 5's force main, as you can see on page 57, was originally planned in 2018. It was fully designed in 2020. We acquired all the land, and then we put it on hold shortly afterwards to see if this whole study with the wastewater strategic plan, the optimization panned out. So what we're looking for now is conveyance does not seem to be cost effective. Main reason being is, if you're looking on page 56, that life cycle cost summary in the middle, now it's over 50 years. So you could look at that and make an argument to say, well, 3A is very close to 3C, so margin of error, why did you choose 3C, right? $400,000 difference over 50 years. The difference is in options 3B through 3E, all of those would require a new, deeper lift station at wastewater plant 1. We haven't studied the cost, but it's at bare minimum going to be $10 million. So if you take 3B through 3E, you need to add $10 million to that. So when we look at that, that's one reason. The second reason is these lift stations are still in good condition. So essentially, you're going to take an asset that has 10, 15, 20 years of life left, and in some cases, decommission it and spend even more money. So what we're looking at is, from the cost side as well as the condition side, this may be feasible, just not at this time. So we're recommending essentially that you take the money that's allocated for, and this may change slightly, I'll explain it here in a minute. But the recommendation is to take the money that's allocated for the land acquisition of wastewater plant 1 and then approve it to be that project to go away for now, and those funds to be used in the replacement of lift station 5. The funds for the property acquisition originally came from lift station 5, so we're actually asking y'all to take us back to where we were before. That's how it works. Slight change may be, and we'll figure this out over the next month. Next month, we'll let you know, is the gravity conveyance was using bond funds, the 2017 bond funds we have on hand. It was authorized to use $4 million. We've only used $1 million. So I do have $3 million of bond funds that I do not have a project on to spend it on at this point in time. Has to be wastewater related. So we may, after we look at it, we may come back and recommend that $3 million of this project used from the bond, and then 6.5 is used from the cash we have on hand. Because you have 3 years to spend the bond funds. We got in 2017, spending a little bit longer than 3 years. So trying to kill off that bond, spend all the proceeds, get on with everything else. So just kind of explain a little bit more about what you have here. Page 57 is the project plan. Page 58 and 59 are some pictures of the force main when we had a break in 23, 24. Now, this started out as basically a half-inch thick ductile iron that is now paper thin. And not everywhere, but in a lot of areas, especially around the air relief valves, it's paper thin. So some of these pictures didn't come out as good, but you can kind of see at an angle where it's literally paper thin. In some cases, the paper or the plastic around is the only thing holding it together. So just some pictures. Yes, sir.
So whatever's, I was gonna say paintball, but the smart ball
Yeah.
survey is able to show thickness remaining in the pipe.
So good point. So on the server, you do have the smart ball, I think it's called Appendix J or something, the condition report that we did in 2014 of this.
Okay.
That was when smart ball was just starting. So they did it at a discounted fee. They came through, ran it in and said, these are the places you may have problems in. Then we did dig up some areas and actually do a grid scan to see what the thickness was, but we did not do all the areas because that would have been cost prohibitive. So we went through, did a few areas and said, okay, overall, this lift station's force main needs to be replaced. But that study with the smart ball technology is also on the Google Drive.
So the only money we're out, so to speak, at this point was just the study of the route, right? So that's 734,000. Right. So,
I round up.
okay.
I should have rounded down.
Okay.
Yes, roughly 734,000.
Okay. Can you show on a map, the length of replacement of, it's 8,100 linear feet? Does that take us all the way from lift station 5 to somewhere near?
Right, so on page 57, I'm gonna get a little bit messy here because it's red, just to let you know. But if you look up here at lift station 5 with this dot that's up here square, and if you go down, you follow that red line where it goes straight down what's McDonald Road.
Yep.
And then it goes to the right and down the golf course, and it makes that little zigzag over to wastewater plant 1.
Right.
That is the 8,100 foot.
Okay, from there to entry to the plant.
You got it.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
On page 56, towards the bottom 2C, you talk about paper thin in a recent break in 2023. What kind of operational risk are we encountering? And I mean, if the public sees this, are they going to be alarmed?
Yeah.
And do we have a risk mitigation plan in place?
We do. When it broke in 2023, as soon as you find it, unfortunately, you're going to have sewer on the ground, right? And so the first thing we do is we go turn off the lift station. Depends on the time of year, time of day and everything else, if we can, the high level of the risk mitigation is we shut it down and we're going to bring in a tanker truck and start pulling out as much as we can. That is a very, very large lift station. So that is not practical nor feasible. So we may do that for a load or two, but while we're setting up a bypass, just to keep the sewer in the sewer at that time. But yeah, generally anytime sewer goes on the ground, people care more than water. So
And this is all raw land above it, but it's not.
not the entirety of
Not
it.
the
A portion of it's on the golf course. A portion of it is running through back easements, if you will. But a part of it does run through McDonald Road underneath the pavement. So
How
we
much pressure are you pumping under these force mains?
Yeah, at force main, at the beginning of it, it's around 20, 25 PSI. Towards the end of it, nothing, it's basically gravity.
So you get maximum 25.
Yeah, max, I'd say it's 45, Jacob, unless you know different pressure.
The enforcement
It's the discharge pressure at the lift station.
remember correctly, it was around 20 to 25.
Did it pump continuously?
No.
So
No, well, yes, it does because they're running on VFD. So as the flow comes in, the speed will ramp up to produce more flow to try to maintain the level of the station.
25 pounds is pretty high for as flat as it is around here. I can't.
Well,
It must be right at the startup or something.
It's from the depth of the lift station to pick it up high enough to get to that high point.
Makes sense.
The lift station is probably, I would say.
Lift station's here and then the pipe's up here. So that's just the part we're worried about, right? Not between here and here. Or just, I'm just trying to figure out how much sewage you get on the ground before you, probably not a whole lot, I would think.
Out of a 24-inch, you get quite a bit.
Yes, sir.
No,
Yeah.
No, but I mean, you don't have that full. I wouldn't think.
Sometimes you do.
Sometimes it is.
Rainstorms, depending.
Well,
on what it
maybe
could be.
rainstorm.
Chris, where on that line was that repair, that 2023 failure?
It's behind,
Ish.
another lift station, but it's behind lift station 18. How do you,
Yeah, so if you go all the way down McDonald Road, hang a left.
Oh, that
there,
same
go
line.
Up to the creek, and then you turn left there at the creek and come back up behind the house there.
You're only concerned with that short section, 2,300 feet or whatever it was, or the entire line?
the entire line?
That's okay.
Right, so it would be.
Is that, again, you said it isn't running full. Is that producing hydrogen sulfide gas that's eating the top of the pipe away? Okay. There was no poly bond or anything like that. It was just cement mortar line, ductile iron pipe?
Just ductile iron from what I recall.
I don't remember, well, the pieces that I seen was paper thin, and so there wasn't anything left.
If there was, it was gone. Yeah, okay. So is that gonna be slip lined or cured in place or what to
HDPE,
HDPE?
it'd be
Okay.
direct drilled, no pipe bursting. You got the easements just run next to
Oh,
it.
you're just gonna slip line it?
Well,
Oh,
we're
okay.
gonna do line right next to it, because see, we have to keep the lift station in operation and the force main.
Oh.
So lay the new line next to it, then do a couple wet connects of the plant and the lift station.
Good plan. Thank you.
All right, so that will come back up in March. If we do adjust the recommendation to look to use the bond funds, then we'll let you know next month with an adjusted, but doesn't change the overall recommendation.
So you'll need to vote here first before it goes to the SJA board or?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's going to be on the next few pages I'm going to talk about. So in that case, kind of slipping over to page 60 and 61, it's a great segue there.
No, it's not intended.
No, it worked. Yeah. So if a project is, y'all don't approve the project plan. The trustees approve the transfer from the O&M to the R&R fund, 6 million per year. Generally speaking, if there's any change in the project plan, we've always brought it back as a courtesy to let y'all know what we're doing, why, and then start seeking approval just to make sure there's concurrence with what we're doing. And so in the case of that project we just talked about, Lift Station 5, that is a different story because in that case, we are removing a project and adding a project. So it doesn't change cash overall, but it may change budget and also changes everything we've given you before. So we are going to look for your approval on that before we take it to our board. So then when you flip to page 60 and 61, these are two projects that came up after the November, knew beforehand, let you know when we did the project update, one case. But they came up after the November MUD meetings, and since you didn't have a December MUD meetings, we weren't able to let you know, so we're here now to let you know what these are. So on page 60, let me back up. These are two budget amendments that did go to the River Authority Board in December. There is no cash needed from the MUDs. This is already funded through R&R. It's just unallocated funds we have in there that are funding these. So no more money from the MUDs. It's just moving money from this pocket to that pocket, if you will. So get through it. On page 60, this is a change order in the amount of, well, the change order to the contract's 92,000 and change. Total project budget change is at the bottom right of 319,000. So I'll kind of walk you through this a little bit. So when we first procured the equipment for this project, we bought the generator. We planned to buy the generator at first to save the 15% markup and everything else. And going through it, we looked at it and said, well, we can buy a few more pieces of equipment. So we bought those pieces of equipment to save the overhead as well. That's why you see the equipment purchase over budget, because there's transfer switches, cabinets, whatever it may be that we bought at the time. So when we purchased those, we were not over budget at that time. But then as you go through the project, you have additional things like this change order. It then puts the overall project over budget. So had to go for budget amendment. So the equipment is the main reason why the project's over 319,000. That's give or take 254,000. The remainder of it, the change order to the actual construction contract, is because the engineer that did the design had an errors and omissions. So he didn't do two things. One is he did not follow the National Electric Code. The second is he did not coordinate with Entergy. So the design was done, put into play, contractors actually constructing it. And then Entergy comes out and finds these issues and says, this is what's going on. So we did notify y'all that there were some issues, potential change order when we did the project update. That time we had no cost, didn't know what needed to be done. So through this process and ending up in December, there is a $92,000 change order. The reason it's so high is Water Plant One, the contractor had already constructed a lot of things. That cost that you see in here for the 93,000 is to remove things that's already been installed and they have to buy them again and all that good stuff. Water Plant Two, he had not constructed anything. But Water Plant Two includes the buying of the right equipment, right? Because the original design called for A, the proper design calls for B. And so that's what you see right there. So what we've done since then, and that's the overall reason for the change order and the budget amendment. What we've done is we are seeking reimbursement from the engineer for the 92,000 and change. They caused the error, they caused the issue. We talked to them in December and there's ongoing back and forth conversation with them, with the attorneys involved. So that is one of them. Like I said, we would have brought it to you before. However, timing in this one did not occur the way it could have. So second one on page 61, relatively the same, just a lot cleaner. This is the wastewater plant 2 grid classifier. This is one design has been done on. This was approved via excess funds. We received bids in. We plan to take it to the December board and the bids were higher than the budget. Usually we do pretty good at the bidding. We're not usually under budget, over budget. We're pretty darn close to it. In this case, our estimate was lower than what came in. So questions?
What do you think the outcome of getting the $93,000 is from the engineering firm? Or is that headed to a settlement or a real reimbursement?
We're not looking for settlement. Last we talked to them, they offered in-kind services. Future job will do it, same cost as this. We decline. The general message we told them is, we have to pay for this. We need y'all. And we're not going to accept in-kind services because this is money that has to be exchanged. So
The engineer.
Hillary, yeah, they're electrical engineer and they do good work. Very good.
No, I'm just curious.
They do have a desire to work with us and they've always done a good job. This is the first issue that I've seen in 15 years with them. So we've stressed that to them and it's up to them to make it right if they want more work. It is unfortunate, but it is what it is. But any questions on any of those items? That is the last item I have to present, unless y'all have questions.
You kind of skipped over the global amendment.
I
Why?
did. It's the next agenda item. I'm not included.
It's in the middle of your packet.
Yeah, I noticed that. I think that was clever.
Not that clever, because you're not staying around. Very good. Thank you, Mr. Meeks. Pleasant evening. Okay, that brings us to agenda item number 12. General Manager Peterson, you want to kick that off, please?
Sure. We learned about this maybe in September, October. I think Aubrey came and gave a presentation on kind of a summary of the Southern Conroe. Part of that was a future task, which was to for all the GFP members to review a draft global amendment, which is in your packet. So as you recall, we are joined as a member of the GRP under the Woodlands division of SRA. So they forwarded us a copy of the global amendment, which and have asked for us to make comment by the end of February. So we don't have any action item today, but wanted to get it out to y'all so that we could all start reviewing it and get comments back to me and then to SGRA by the end of February.
So we're gonna deal with this next month. Is that what you're saying?
We need to,
Why is that?
What do you mean?
I'm just saying, it doesn't have to be resolved to January of 2027, right?
Right, but they've asked for our comments because they have to finalize the document and then they got to go back out to all of the participants for a vote. Now recall, in order for the final document version of this to be approved, 85% of the GRP members by flow, 2025 flow rate, have to agree to it in order for it to be adopted. Otherwise, we fall under the existing terms. So it would be in our best interest to read it and provide comments if there's anything we'd like to change so that they can final the document.
No, I'll say, I've read the document. At the last SRA board meeting, they had a board item in which they were discussing changing the refinancing all the bonds. That are series, and the Attorney General's office stepped in and stopped them because they have an existing GRP contract. Right, an existing GRP contract that obligates the current owners of the bonds, and by selling more bonds, then you'd probably have a disclosure issue because the GRP contract could be at risk based on the court's decisions.
Some of your statements are not correct, Mr.
Okay, well, why don't you tell us about the judgment, and then I don't have to.
That's not, I don't want to speak for your attorney, but that's not the agenda item.
Well,
We're
okay,
happy to
then
talk
I'll
about it.
continue then.
But it's.
I'll
but
just
it's
say
not
that I
the
have concerns about messing with the GRP contract. So we have a contract that defines our relationships today. And the SRA and City of Conroe, behind closed doors, without our involvement or without our knowledge, modified that GRP contract. I personally, reading through it, I don't see anything that benefits the Woodlands. I see one item that could not benefit us, but the importation fee. So I'm concerned that we don't know what the lay of land is going to be when these suits are all settled. And we're basically weakening the GRP contract. And I think until this is resolved, what would it be our interest? Our interest in modifying the GRP arrangement as it is today, not knowing where we're going to be a year from now, or 2 years from now, or 3 years from now. There's nothing in that contract that requires us to rush. So I thought we had more months, but we don't. We have 1 month. So I just don't see why it's in our interest to modify the contract. It was done without our knowledge, without our input. And I think we could easily just sit here and say, we're happy the way it is. And I'll be honest with you, to me, there's some other issues that I could see that in the future we might want to incorporate in a modification. And having modified it once already, it may be difficult to get that support. So I that's my comment. We really didn't get a lot of readout of why this contract was done. That one pager we got from the last meeting wasn't much. And so that's my impression. I'm not saying I'm an expert, but I see no benefit. I see risk. And but we have to discuss it the next month. I'll gladly repeat that again. And you guys could tell us about the litigation. Anybody wants a copy, have a copy of it. We can make some and hand it out. That's all I have to say.
So all this agenda item, I'll make sure I understand what we're talking about here. This is a proposed amendment drafted as it is with us being provided for us to provide any feedback to it. Okay.
Correct, but it can only be enacted if 85%.
And that enactment would happen through a vote that's going to happen in a year from now ish,
No.
No.
Up to,
up to a year.
all the participants have a year from, I
Now,
guess, when the final document is presented or agreed to.
that was the year I
It
was,
would go into effect January
January
1,
27.
27. I don't know when the vote is due by.
In my understanding, and I've not been part of it either. Mr. Spear coordinated all of that. But my understanding is a decision needs to be made as to whether this global amendment gets approved. If not, then City of Conroe has the right to negotiate some other terms just on their contract with the river.
Yeah, that's what was, how it was described to us, right?
Correct.
Right.
I thought those terms were already negotiated. When it reads, it said, if this is rejected, then that other amendment takes effect automatically. So what did it?
But it still has to be either rejected or approved.
So if we do nothing with this, let's just say Woodland says, I don't want to do anything with the words in this agreement. This agreement goes through the process of getting voted on. And then we would either vote for or against it. And I assume that happens as individual MUDs, or is that
No.
happen as one customer?
Well,
or I guess you actually are voting for it, right?
actually Woodlands Division would be voting.
Right. Okay.
And so Woodlands Division and City of Conroe make up the majority of that 85% of the volume.
And if we said we don't like it to San Jacinto, would you say no, you wouldn't vote for it?
If that's the majority of the MUD, that message would be passed on, yes.
Or
Well, wait, let's clarify. The message we passed on, that legally you can vote any way you want.
That is true, but
Yeah.
Mr. Spear is going to hear your comments.
Right, right.
but what we would want that gets reflected in the vote, if we could just assume that for a second. If we don't like what's in here, then we should respond to it. Or this goes as is. So what's the harm of modifying things we don't like about it? If something's gonna happen regardless, so otherwise it goes on without any comment, so I don't understand your concern.
So my first thought was just like yours.
Right.
I looked at this importation fee, the waiver of the importation fee.
Right.
Mhm.
And that seemed to concern me because that would put in jeopardy the future cash flows from any increase in water. Does that mean someone like in another city who's not getting service could say, I want to be able to go off and get water someplace else without paying an importation
Right. So that makes sense, right?
99. So that
what-
would put in jeopardy the funding of the facility.
There
So
needs to be some clarification on that.
if we think that's important, we could say we'd like you to strike that or change it, right?
We could.
Isn't that what they were being asked for? Is like to put input into this to make it a better agreement?
That's right. Then I think the next thing was when we went to the SJA board meeting, found out that there's another organization suing the SJA over the GRP contract, wanting to void it. You know what I mean? Now, I don't know if they're gonna win or not. I mean, there's multiple suits going on. And, the Attorney General stepped in and says, oh, you can't sell new bonds.
That's not what
Because,
we're talking about
I
here.
know, but I'm saying, if you just take that logic and you say, we have a GRP contract that is in jeopardy. And we don't know how that's gonna land. That's an unknown. That's an unknown, how that contract's gonna land. And, to me, why modify a GRP contract that's in jeopardy already? You know what I mean? And in court, what benefit do we have? What do we gain by modifying? And if I had the same opinion you did, then I went to the board meeting and said, what's going on here? And it's like we have to, for the plastics in the water, right? And we don't want to seek a settlement because we don't know the outcome. We don't want to take the buy-in. And I think the same thing here. I see nothing in here that's pressing. But I see,
The settlement between Conroe and that is going to dictate this. And this is
No.
gonna happen regardless of.
no, it's an option.
85%.
Yeah,
Well, I know, but it's gonna proceed.
Well, but everybody, there's gotta be one agreement. that
No, there has to be one agreement, I know, but I'm just
That's
saying,
all we're-
if
Dave,
we-
all we're doing and ask is to review this as a draft.
I
Come
agree
back
with you.
and-
We could modify it and see what we get, but I'm just saying, this was their thought process and their decision process, not ours. Like, we had no input. We don't know the deep meaning of this, you go through, read this document, it references all sorts of contracts. It references all sorts of references, page, this paragraph, and I just don't see, having seen again, the
It references
FJ
the original contract.
The original one contract.
If the
Gregor,
original,
would you
if the original
like to give
contract
some
that
clarity to this, potential clarity, please?
Well, I was going to clarify, the AG did not come to us and say you cannot do this. And I was going to address that when we did the short presentation on what's going on with the GRP and what we did with the bond defeasance and or refunding. So I was going to address that, but the AG didn't come to us and said, you can't do this anymore, you can't issue bonds. That's not the sequence of events. But I have a presentation to show you the sequence of events, if you'd like.
Can we move away from this, David?
Yeah.
You're good? Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So, I guess I'm a little confused. I thought the global agreement was an outcome of the negotiation between City of Conroe and the River
It
Authority.
is one of the outcomes.
Yeah, one of the outcomes, but it was a finished product.
It is a draft being sent around for comments. And then the comments will be,
Because I thought you guys, River Authority and Conroe worked very hard on this, and Conroe has endorsed this.
they have,
And now is Conroe open to modifications?
depending on the modifications.
It would seem to me that if David, your concern is if the agreement gets blown up for some reason, then this amendment goes with it. We're amending the original agreement, right? We still have one agreement. We don't have two agreements. So that's like an event that's completely out of our control. If it gets blown up for some reason, then this gets blown up with it. It's because now we have one new agreement, right?
Well, no, you would still have the original agreement. It just,
We're amending
if this
the
gets
original.
blown up, you
I
still
mean,
have
the original,
the,
he said, what if the original, or the agreement is at risk? This is what I understand. He said, the agreement is at risk, the original agreement, due to this thing you said with the Attorney General, right?
I did.
Then that means any amendment to it would be at risk if it got blown up.
I'm just saying, I look at this, okay? I look at the details of this, right? And I look at it as, why is this of interest to the citizens of Woodlands? Right? What do we get out of it? I'm just asking that. What do we get out of it? I mean, so far we have a 15-minute presentation from their attorney that reads that one slideshow. There's no discussion thus far about the logic behind each one of these statements. What took, what motivated them to do this? What hidden meaning is there? And I'm not a lawyer and I'm not necessarily familiar with all this, but I thought we had to January or summer, but now we want to do it in a month. Well, that's fine, but
the basis for that timing is,
I understand.
no, I'm not sure you do.
Okay.
And so let me clarify for you. We need time, once comments are received, we will need time to make the adjustments, sit down with Conroe and see if they're okay with it. And then if everybody is okay with it, then we have to go to all our participants and get their approval. That's going to take time because most of them meet on a monthly basis, just like you all do. So any decision that comes out of this group takes 2 months at a minimum. So that does take a certain amount of time. Now, one other thing, the waiver of the import fee. The way that's supposed to work is if an entity comes to us and says, we need more surface water and we can't provide it, then that gives them, that entity, the opportunity to go out and find another source and they won't be charged an import fee. But if we can provide it, the import fee still stands.
Eric, we're not going to go into closed session after the discussion from the River Authority, but to talk internally about it some more. I think that's probably the appropriate venue for that.
That's good.
But Conroe's getting a chance to review it in advance of reviewing it as a GRP member.
That's my understanding. Now, I'll verify it and let you know if I'm incorrect, but that's my understanding.
Okay.
Can I ask who's suing to get out of the GRP?
That's not the case. But we'll get there.
Okay.
That's part of your.
Well, not who, but yes.
But the pages 45 and 46 are the summary, next 45, 46, and 47 are the River Authority's summary of the global agreement.
You should have a copy of the actual document.
I know, but I want to make sure these.
Okay. Yeah.
So we'll have a,
45, 46, 47, 48,
I
49.
guess, Eric, just to clarify the timeline, you want individual feedback from us to you prior to the next meeting?
We need, I'd say around the next meeting, just so we have time to collate those and get them into one format and send them on to Trey. By the,
So the February meeting will just be a consolidation of comments, not a reply from River Authority to our comments.
we can speed it up if you want. I mean, I was intending to give everyone about a month, and then we would collate those comments into one form and get them, all the comments together. In February. That will give us about 2 weeks to get that done after the meetings.
You look like you have a question.
That's what I was thinking. Mr. Wilson?
You need 85% approval. From the top on down, how many users do you need to really sign up? Well, you gotta have Conroe on the Woodlands, and that's. Yeah, there's two, I know of two, but you need somebody else?
Yes.
Few others.
Take out the entities that initiated some of the lawsuits and everybody beyond them.
That's 85% of the freshwater users
All
or surface water. users.
all the total demand.
Total man. So it's, you go back to GRP, it's the 85% of the full circle.
But Conroe and the Woodlands are the biggest consumer.
And each represent of the 100%, how much? Okay.
Percentage of water usage?
No, yeah, right, of the vote,
Roughly,
of the vote, roughly.
50 to 55%, Conroe and Woodlands together.
So either party rejected the agreement would cancel it.
It's different.
In which case, the separate side agreement with Conroe just goes into action.
And our agreement defaults to what we have today. Right.
That's my understanding.
Could you share with the group his background, the agreement with Conroe that goes into effect if this isn't approved?
I don't have it memorized.
Well, I meant just send it to Shelley and
You got it when Aubrey
Yeah.
presented, so it was in that
It's one of the
package.
it's on the full
You
package.
can dig it back up, yeah.
Okay.
There's a copy of that.
Yeah, okay.
I don't think the global was in that, but that one was.
It was part of that, yeah. You know, the biggest thing on Conroe is they want to take their contract from an 80-year contract to a 40-year. Everybody else is 40. So it doesn't hurt anybody on that.
I kind of remember two elements in there.
That was one of them.
One of them, I don't remember the other.
What else? You want, Eric, you want Pam?
Do you want me to present it or not?
We
It's
moved
up to
it
you.
what? What do you want to present?
The defeasance refunding topic. That's up to you.
We can. I was going to, bring that up in the GM report, but we can do it right now.
Doesn't matter to me, whatever it's. Okay.
Do it now. So, what I was going to present in the GRP report was, I usually give you an update and you don't have an update in there because, there's not usually a meeting in November. It's usually moved to early December and that meeting was canceled. So the last meeting that we had was in October. The GRP committee in October made recommendation to the SJ board to take the $18.8 million, utilize roughly 8.3 for defeasance. And at that time, there was conversation about simultaneously also refunding some of the old bonds and gaining some of that benefit while we're defeasing some at the same time. In addition to that, 500,000 of the 18.8 would be placed into the R&R fund. So fast forward, and my understanding is next week at the next GRP meeting, there'll be a request for the GRP to consider two different options with some of what we originally looked at in October changing. So I think that may be part of what you want to go over is what has changed since what I just described in October, which is the last time that the GRP committee saw this information. Is that fair? Yeah, last time we met in October.
So you get a preview. It's coming.
Yep.
Tuesday.
Yep.
This one?
Is this in our deck?
Doubt it. Is it?
Yeah, it is.
Oh,
It's not that bad.
I don't know.
It's in here.
What's on 48 is December 11th.
I think it's the same president.
No.
Doesn't appear to be.
Ready?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, 49.
What, this is gonna go to the review committee next Tuesday for their consideration. And the reason for me to be here tonight is to keep y'all up to date because there've been some stories about, oh, we're doing this, we're doing that, we're not doing this, we're doing that. So I wanted to try to clear that up. So we are gonna present to them the second budget amendment for this fiscal year. That's gonna have option 1 and option 2. And then we're gonna present along with that, it's hand in hand, is the GRP rate reduction with an option 1 and option 2. So this was presented in October to the review committee and the board that we wanted to utilize Conroe's payment. And 3 options at that time. We said we want to take 22.2 million and purely pay down the bonds. Second option was to bond the fees and refund. Because we could take the bonds we had about 330 million remaining at that time, refund them, and we would also defease at that time, taking 20 million out of the general fund. It would reduce, we projected it would reduce our rate 12 cents. So we were like, this is really good. And it also at that time, we would look at cutting back the maturity date by 2 years. So the last one, which was chosen by the review committee and also by our board, was to defease and refund with putting a little bit into R&R. And there'll be a chart later on to show you what we're doing with R&R. So this was the recommendation that we took to our board. Our board then approved this recommendation. So fast forward to the timeline, and this is a lot of words. There's 2 pages of dates here to tell you what happened. So review committee approved it, board approved it. Moving forward, we had Baird go out and issue an RFP for underwriters to move forward with this refunding. We talked to TWDB because the majority of the bonds are with TWDB. And when we found out that we could not fully refund the bonds because of tax implications that they have with these bonds, and it was like, okay, let's see what we can do. Let's keep moving forward. And if we can refund most of them, it's still going to be an advantage. So our Baird issued the first preliminary official statement. You know, you're getting the next step is final. We're moving along. So we met with our finance committee of SGRA board and said, here's the TWDB constraints. Here's the AG comments on moving forward with this. We were asking the AG about okay to move forward with the refunding. We were getting positive responses. We had the RFP data from Baird on the underwriters. Move forward. On the 24th, we canceled the review committee meeting a week ahead because we didn't have agenda items at that point. On the 26th, Thanksgiving Eve, let me read you what Aubrey told our board. During the October review committee meeting, GRP review committee meeting, the committee recommended that the board consider the amount received from the settlement with Conroe for both debt defeasance and bond refunding. However, the day before Thanksgiving, the authority was notified of an additional legal filing related to the GRP contract. As a result of these filings, staff and legal counsel need some time to allow the legal proceedings to be resolved and/or ask the Attorney General of the state of Texas to provide advance clearance to proceed with the overall GRP refunding. SGRA still plans to move forward with the bond refunding when conditions are appropriate for such transaction to take place. So at that time, we went to the board. We're at November the 26th. We received this notice of a federal class action lawsuit related to the pumpage. And so therefore it stopped the refunding of the bonds. We discussed our bond counsel on the 8th, which would have been the review committee day, discussed it with the AG's office and determined that they wouldn't approve the refunding at this time. The AG's office approves all bond issuances to make sure your rate can pay it. Brian, correct me if I'm stating this incorrectly, but they approve all bond issuances.
They issue an opinion.
Yes.
An opinion bond.
And then,
Every, tax exempt or every bond issued in the state.
and you don't sell them without that.
Yep.
So we went to our board and said, okay, alternate route. Let's use the 20 million. Let's go ahead and defease what we can, pay down the bonds. And let's continue chasing this refunding as we're legally allowed to. So it is not off the board to do it, but we're at the moment have hold on the refunding. So
So what did the AG say? Could you repeat that?
I don't have exactly what they said. I'm
Well, what
sorry.
did they say to cause you to change positions?
They just said they couldn't issue an opinion on that.
They couldn't issue the.
That's my understanding is how it's phrased. I don't know exactly because I'm not in those letters. I was just told the AG's office says we couldn't do it at this time. That's the best I can give you.
Yeah, and the only way to go over and above that, and this is just, I mean, whether a district issues bonds, river authority, a city, whoever, if the AG won't approve a bond issue, an issuer's only recourse at that point is a bond validation suit to basically have a court approve the bond issue over the AG's objection. So I don't know if that's something y'all discussed the possibility of, but that's the only other recourse you have if the AG says they're not going to approve a bond issue.
No, we didn't go past that at that point. So I wanted to let you know what the defeasance, what we're going forward with on the defeasance. The principal amount we're paying off is 18,410,000. But the overall with the interest at this point. So our penny right now at the GRP is worth almost $250,000 of expense. So annual savings is about $830,000. So we're saying that's equivalent to about a 3-cent savings on the rate. So keep that in mind because we get to more numbers here as it gets more fun. I'm pressing the wrong one or not. There we go. So this was also presented to the GRP review committee and we've added just a little bit of verbiage. So I didn't, but it was talking about, we had our fiscal budget approved back in August. The green option 2, September option 2 is what we came to the GRP review committee with a recommended change due to the demand based on the settlement with Conroe. And with that, we said, if we can do this, we'll be able to lower the rate 10 cents. If you'll increase the demand to 20 MGD, we'll be able to lower the rate. And we wanted to increase the contribution on the September budget by 2.9 to the R&R. Okay, increase it. Our proposed option today is going to be with option 1 and 2. There's no change in the water supply. There's a rate reduction for the defeasance, and there'll be a decision on whether to go ahead and increase an additional amount to the R&R for future projects for the GRP from the debt defeasance. Yes, sir.
Could you clarify?
Yes.
Go back to your slide.
Yeah, I'm trying.
So the contribution of the R&R in the green
Yes, sir.
is a one-time.
It's this year's.
Yeah, it's a single 2.9 million.
Yes, sir.
Contribution that you're talking about in the orange would be an annual contribution?
No, it's the same thing. This is based on your budget. It gets approved every year in the budget. Just like the Woodlands has 6 million of R&R contribution every year. This is this year decision in the budget. And you'll see a schedule in a minute that shows you the R&R and what the projected projects are. GRP's projects are much smaller than the Woodlands. So you'll be able to see that shortly, if you'll bear with me. Okay, all right. All right, so our option 1, this is option 1. Because of a rate reduction, we're proposing a 3-cent rate reduction. You saw that from the defeasance. The full 3 cents would be reducing operating revenues. We're reducing expense based on paying this off, taking money and using it for bond principal, 18,410. You heard me say that a while ago. So we'll be using money of 19 million and 19.5 million out of the general fund. And because we're shortening the maturity of the bonds, we're going to go from 2041, October 1st of 2041 to October 1st of 2039 as being the final payment. We have to increase our debt service reserve. Our debt service reserve is required by the bond covenants, thank you. It's required to have a certain amount in there. And so because of shortening the life, that increases the amount we have to put in there. So this is option 1, 3 cents. And this is just the verbiage of decrease, increase. Option 2 says, okay, we'll only use 1 cent of the debt service defeasance money and put the other 2 cents. Remember, I told you a penny's worth 2.50. Put that other 2 cents to your R&R transfer. That is the only difference in numbers. General use fund is of course going to change because it's going to go out of there into the R&R transfer. You're going to have less income, interest expense is the same, bond principal is the same. And debt service reserve is the same, that 1.3 million. So overall, I promised you this slide, R&R projects. This is a slide we showed the review committee in October along with our board. On the left-hand side is the membranes project. The current balance as of this slide was 6.9 million. We have less the portion funded for the membranes, 5.3. Original budgeted fiscal year 26 R&R transfer, 860,000. That was in the original budget that we approved in August. September's budget amendment said put 2.9 more in there because we're going to need it. This proposal, if you chose option 2, says put another 500,000 in there. So go to the right-hand side, estimated project timeline for the membranes. 690,000 for the study and design. Study and startup is almost 10 million. And then final replacement, another 3 million. We're proposing the future transfers will be the 4.26 million. And once we fund that, 4.26 for this year, 4.26 for the remaining years, there will be a remaining balance if the membranes come in at the 13,193, a remaining balance of almost 5 million in the R&R for future use. But this is pending approval on each year these transfers happen. Okay? There's Mud.
How good is that $13 million membrane estimate?
I'd have to ask the expert. Yeah,
Yeah, the study will actually define exactly what it is, but that is pretty accurate. It's accurate as of December of last year from the engineer.
The quote or just an estimate? I mean,
It's based on quotes and estimates as well.
Okay.
But when you chose this technology, I assume this membrane is based on gallons, 1,000 gallons passed through, like this.
It's based on turbidity for the most part.
Yeah, so how did this, when you went through 15 years ago and you looked at this technology and you had an estimate of its life, how's that coming out today?
So the estimated now 15 years ago, I just started, right? So I didn't.
in the Woodlands, you just started.
I'm sorry?
You got a statement for the supply.
Right. So average lifespan of membranes is 12 to 15 years. These were put in play right around 2015, right around the beginning, so they can run through startup and everything else. You're right at 10 years. Part of this entire project, though, one of the first things, because we do autopsies on the membranes about every 2 years. Part of this study is to do another autopsy and tell us how many more years do we have and how can we effectively clean them to get as many years as we can. So if we go through and they say, hey, you got 7 years left to go, then we don't have a need to replace them right now. We may finish out the study to see what's best at this time. But the membranes were originally supposed to be replaced about 2 years ago. But through the autopsies, they've been delayed each year. But we know they're approaching the end of useful life because the more they get clogged, you have to use more aggressive cleaners. Therefore, it breaks down the integrity of it. So we know we're getting close.
Mr. Smith, I can always remember the conversation because I was really new when we were breaking ground.
Yeah.
And I remember the conversations by Ron Kelly saying, we need to start putting away for these membranes because they have about a 10-year life. That was always his, we've got to keep putting away for these because we have about a 10-year life and they're not cheap. So I can remember distinctly him saying that, but that doesn't help us today.
Yeah.
These aren't sole source though, are they? I mean, are there numerous?
So part of the study is right now we have Paul membranes right? So it's an entire control system and it's certain individual membranes and everything else. So there's a lot of it that is sole source, but they do make plug and play with different types of membranes, right? So you can take this and replace the PAL with it. However, at the same time, there's a lot of unutilized capacity at GRP and we're just about maxed out. So this study is going to look at the life of the membranes, but it's also going to look and say, okay, can I remove this membrane and put a different membrane in there and do additional work to gain some more production at the facility? Because if I have to replace the membranes and spend 13 million doing it, maybe I can replace the membranes and spend 13 and get 5 MGD more at the plant for the same cost. So this is a very comprehensive study to gain production and also get the best membrane going forward. But I don't like anything sole source. So if we can get away from this whole sole source programming deal, we're going to try to get that way too.
There's been a good deal of technology improvement in 10 years.
Agree.
Yeah.
Agree entirely. And so that's part of why this whole study is being looked at as well.
So what is the true significance of, in reality, to the 500,000, whether it goes or not? Because it's one of the reasons I wanted to bring it up tonight, to get some guidance from y'all on how to vote next week. And it really boils down to, you know, whether or not to transition 500,000 into R&R at the cost of 2 cents. You know, so it's either a 13-cent drop and no 500, or 11-cent drop and 500 in R&R. So I guess when I look at this, it doesn't appear that that's going to break the bank.
Correct.
Well,
Now, when you're looking at this individual, yeah, agree entirely.
okay.
What we're looking at is, we know the plant's 10 years old. Our next 10-year project plan is going to take us to year 20. We're going to have more assessments. We're going to have more pumps to need to be replaced, more motors, whatever else it may be. And then, of course, you hit 25 years, most of your mechanical stuff's out the window. What we're looking to do is not issue any more bonds at GRP and cash fund everything. And so when I start coming up with structures, mechanicals and stuff that needs to be replaced, I can't get 10, $15 million within a couple of years. So what we're looking at is, yes, for this individual project right here for the next 2-3 years, but the project plan that GRP will see in May, you're going to see a lot of assessments and electrical replacements throughout it, because it's reaching the end of a useful life for a lot of those items.
So then really it's about that $5 million target versus it being 4.5. I mean, that's really the end result.
Right.
Except for whatever other projects are identified in the next couple of years.
Right, because, for example, if the review committee said, no, we don't want this 500,000, we want our 2 cents, reduce the rate, I would say there's a very good chance you're going to see that 500,000 back in the FY 27 budget saying, I need this 500,000.
But that still could even happen, even if it's in, if you identify more projects than you have money for, right?
It could be,
Still
but
could.
at that time, it'd be $1 million if you did.
Whatever it is,
Yeah.
just fine. But
Yeah, no, it's one way or the other. Just the main thing on the entire conversation is that 500,000, it's up to the review committee, but we are trying to cash fund as everything that we can and not issue any more debt at GRP.
So just an effort to put a little bit more in the eventual surplus or reserve, if you will.
Right. So the SJR's view right now is that going forward with the water plant, we're gonna do R&R to maintain it. We're
Correct.
likely to have any more capital bond sales.
Not for the maintenance of the facility, right? Anything bond related and expansions, whatever else.
Like expansion, something like that.
Yeah, that's way too much to cash fund.
And we, unless it's a major maintenance, we can't bond fund it.
Yeah.
It's not allowed.
So yeah,
I got a question.
yes.
This plant is designed for 30 million gallons a day, so I'd assume that the membranes that were put in there initially can handle 30 million gallons a day.
Thank you.
So effectively, I don't know what the total is, but we've averaged less than 15 for the first 10. So are you telling me that the membranes would have been usable for 10 years, whether we ran 10,000 or 30,000 or 15?
Correct.
Yeah, so there's a good example of terribly inefficient, like that for the last 10 years that we should have been producing 30 million gallons a day.
Also
If the
keep in
membrane
mind,
if the membrane life is 10 years, no matter what you run through there.
annual average
Just to
production, 12, 15, I'll go with that. But keep in mind, in the summertime, you do peak up 23, 24, 28 for a number.
Go back to average for the first 4 or
yeah.
5 years.
We went 4 years around 12, 13 MGD.
So the average for the first 10, we probably didn't do 15 million gallons average.
Agreed.
But we also do run the membranes all day, every day. Yes, sir.
Chris, you mentioned that the study may indicate that you have some remaining membrane life, okay? Let's say
Correct.
2, 3, 4 more years, which means that project timeline would be pushed out, correct?
Potentially. So the reason the project plan is set up like this is we assume there's at least 2 more years. I don't need to wait for 2 years, then start replacing them. So we expect that basically once the autopsy is done, it's going to say you have 2 years, and that's a 3-year timeline to get it done. So that sets us up where we need to replace them before the end of the useful life. Now, if the membranes come back and say you have 5 years, that may push it a year, maybe 2.
And so does this 500,000 become even material if it's that case? Does it make sense to know that before you kind of do this other additional funding, or does it just kind of get lost in the numbers and the
This
round?
project, it may or may not. Every year you wait, and inflation, everything else goes up from there. Because this project was originally 5-6 million. The last 5-6 million it is now. But the other key with that 500,000 is all the other projects that we know. Right now, just as an FYI, the GRP's project plan has 88 lines, and we're going to pare that down to somewhere hopefully around 10. And so there's a lot of stuff we're adding in because nothing's been evaluated or looked at because it's been less than 10 years old. So as we're getting there and more people are using the facility, and the production is 20 MGD now with a peak of 28, I think it is, you're going to run through a lot more stuff. So, you know.
Thanks. Thank you, Chris. All right.
So any comments on the 2 options or, you would?
That's okay. We're good. We're good. So remember the 10 cents from September, which was the increased demand. So we're talking about option 1, which is an additional 3 cents, or option 2, which is a 1 cent additional. So it's either, like you said, 13 or 11.
13 or 11.
Yes, sir. And that's what we'll be asking for. Again, coinciding with the budget, we'll be asking for a recommendation on the budget, which then correlates to the rate.
And your recommendation was the 10 plus 1?
I don't have a recommendation
Or
because it
what's
is
in this?
truly,
Didn't the committee or somebody have a recommendation? Sorry.
originally the committee back in October recommended
Yeah.
the 3,
Three.
the high, the 500,000 going to R&R.
Yeah, yeah.
That was their
okay,
original
okay, that's right.
recommendation.
That's what you're saying. Okay.
Yes,
So we
sir.
get 3 cent reduction in that case, or 1 cent reduction
1 cent. That'd be 11 cent reduction in total.
total.
But must be clear, the October recommendation was 10 cents for the increased throughput and 10 to 13 cents for the bond issue, right?
The October recommendation was the 10 cent additional rate reduction with the refunding.
Right.
And 2 cents, it was
Oh, it's
12, remember I told you.
20 cents plus 500K.
2 or 20, yeah.
Correct.
Right. That's what I want to be clear.
10 plus the 10 or 12.
We went with 20.
But now that we don't have the refunding in play, the defeasance is 3.
Gotcha.
So 3 or 1. So 13 or 11 total.
Yeah.
Because we didn't, when we talked to our attorney about going ahead and implementing the 10, let's do the 10 rate reduction right now, and then we'll come back with whatever happens here. And they said, no, wait, because they have to go, Little Muds have to go to the PUC and get the approval for the rates, and we'd have to make them do it again. And apparently that's expensive. So we went with, okay, we'll defer it. We'll allow for it in the budget. When we gave you the September budget that we all approved, we allowed for the change of the rate from January 1st by that 10 cents at minimum. And then when this all happened, it's like, okay, now what? So now we're looking at February 1st, because we can't change it mid-month. We're looking at implementing the rate reduction, whatever gets approved, February 1st. So this is the 11 cent, that's the 10 cent, 13 cents, sorry. Lots of numbers.
Voting this, or does the
I'm sorry,
WWA?
That's the same thing.
say it again. I didn't hear.
Is it much about what's the voting on this? Much or?
I need to
You
vote.
need guidance.
He needs to
And I asked
recommend
for
that.
guidance, and I don't think there needs to be an official vote. I need a little guidance. Ultimately, it's on me.
I recommend keeping the $500,000 allocation to R&R in place per year.
The 1 cent.
Going with the 11,500.
Yeah.
Why would you bother with the 1 cent? Why don't you keep 750? 1 cent. 1 cent to me was.
And Paul, you're thinking you like that because
everything that's been said here, I mean, we all know that costs are not going to go down.
Conservative approach.
Well, yes.
I'm just trying to get, I'm just trying to understand your thinking.
Yeah. Nobody's got the 1 cent yet. You know, used to paying it, you're gonna, if you give it back, you're gonna pay it back next year or the year after. 2 cents, but I bother with. Especially when our water rate's $5.50.
Yeah, makes sense to me.
Just a quick reminder, it's kind of gone back and forth. GRP review committee is typically on a Monday, but it's a holiday, so it's going to be Tuesday. So if you go up there on Monday, good luck.
Okay. Well, you'll be gone.
Yeah, so I don't know who's got the floor or the chair at this point, but Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask a question of the presenter here.
Yes, sir.
How much risk are you and we taking by continuing down the path that you've just outlined for us? Bearing in mind, you gave the GRP committee a presentation in October, pointing them in one direction, and that didn't happen. What's your confidence level in this proposal?
Oh, it's, the defeasance is already on the way because the board approved it at, so is that what you're asking? Or you're asking?
Is there anything that the water board or the attorney general office would come through and say, you can't do that, or
Oh.
go a different direction?
No, sir, it's already in play. It's already, the verification letter's been done. The, trying to think of the other thing that happens, but, that's already going down the road. The defeasance is happening. We're fixing to transfer the funds to Bank of New York.
Refunding is what's been put on hold.
The refunding in full has been put on. Yes, sir. That is the only part.
Our transfer.
Pam, would you please put up the two options that we're going to do a raise of hands about, please? It's going to be option 1 or option 2, right?
Sir. Yes, sir. Sorry. Okay. Okay, this one is option 2, which is 11 cents with 500,000 going to R&R. Option 1 is 13 cents with no additional R&R contribution.
Thought you had one that had them both on the same slide, no?
Go up one more.
Keep going. I don't.
No. Okay. Okay. It's option 1 or option 2.
Yes.
Everybody have a pretty good grasp of the components there?
What's that average bill?
Just show of hands. I mean, option 1.
One is 1 cent.
No.
Can we have a little bit more discussion? Or,
Sure.
so I think it makes a lot of sense to move the 500K over if we have some assurances that that money is really earmarked for the membranes, and we don't come back next year saying, oh, we know we told you we had this, but now we need 2 cents more because we have to fund the membranes. I'm always concerned about not getting cash soon and allowing you guys to accumulate it, and then come back a year later and we say, oh, that money really got used for something else, and we need more money. So, I mean, I know you don't have an escrow account per se,
We have separate R&R account.
but it's only R&R. Once it's in the R&R, you guys are free to spend it however you want, kind of.
Correct, but there are no other projects for the GRP that have been approved.
Well, not now.
Right, but that would be in next year's budget.
It would be. And so also the resolution only allows us to hold so much money in there based on the project count. So if we do the project plan and there, it shows there's $20 million worth of projects, I can't hold more than 20 million and it's allocated just to those projects. So the change of the resolution would have to go through the review committee and then also through our board as well. But yeah, there's only 2 projects right now, one being the membrane, the other one's basically is done at this point. And I don't have enough money. We pre-fund everything at GRP, so I don't have enough money to do the membranes just yet. So I can promise you everything's going towards those membranes, because if they shut down, the plant shuts down.
I will tell you, state statute or state law or whatever it's called requires us to have money in the bank when we let a project.
Right. Yeah.
So we have to have that.
I think from a consumer standpoint, people would rather have 1 cent now and have some stability than give them 3 cents now and then come back a year later and say, oh, sorry about that. We got to go up 4 cents because we just gave you 3 cents back, but it's only for a year. But not a big material impact.
But there is conservatism.
Yeah. I think the bigger question, which is the elephant in the room we haven't talked about, is how do we reflect this in our MUD budgets and the pass-through fees? So this is looking at a 11-cent reduction in the River Authority fee. Right now, that's a pure pass-through, and that's always been advertised as a pass-through. So starting in February, are the MUDs going to approve redoing their budgets, pass that money through, knowing that we have some significant infrastructure stuff coming up? Or do we create a new fund, a new fee, which is an infrastructure fee that traces 11 cents from a River Authority fee to an infrastructure fee? Because it looks like starting February 1, we'll be accumulating 11 cents refund reduction. What do we
What do we do with that?
What do we do with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it looks like we won't be discussing it until February at the earliest.
And that discussion is really unique to each MUD, right? Every MUD financial situation is different. Right, we're not cookie cutter.
Correct.
So one MUD may need to have it treated a different way than another MUD. I'm looking for a recommendation.
Yeah, that's not how we've done it in the past.
Is that how you've done it in the
No, I'd
past?
like
Everybody's
to
the
be
same?
consistent on how this is looked at.
Okay.
Now, I don't know that there's a precedent necessarily. But, and we have talked about this a little bit, is doing just what Brad suggested. But what we really need to do is run the financial analysis of what we're going to need for some of these other projects. So as you know, the water lines, for instance, we have a general schedule, and I've received now recently kind of a schedule of when certain funds would be necessary for project 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those are the 5 projects over the next decade. And so we can look at that. We'll look at that and see what the timing of that is, see what the resultant dollars that we would need for those, and then compare those to what this 11 cents might be. I don't know at this time whether that covers it, whether it puts no dent in it at all, whether it helps or not. But
So has the SRI produced a 10-year plan?
the
Is that
10-year,
what you're talking about? What are you talking about? You received, you said. What did you receive?
just
Projects.
a rough summary of what of how the 10 projects would go in terms of roughly when the
The water line I'm talking
for the
about.
water line.
Anything more than we got from
No.
Spencer?
No, it's the same.
Same thing. Okay.
Other than, that was, I think, 120. And it was noted at that point that that didn't include inflation over time. So that's and engineering, I think, needed to be added. So that would be different.
So a couple of months ago, you guys inferred that you'd come back with a 10-year plan or, some plan for the water line projects, and obviously we don't have it this month.
The 10-year plan, like Eric said, we provided the financial plan for the bond tranches to Eric as part of the financial analysis. We were going to be bringing the supplemental agreement this month, but there was a slight delay. So we're looking to bring that in February to the months. But the 10-year plan that we have is exactly what y'all approved, I believe, in October, maybe, which follows exactly what HDR said.
I'd like to see that in writing. Because to be honest with you, when I go back and think of the last conversation we had with David Spencer, where we kind of left it, it was let's say it was a philosophy approach, right? We were going to approach things this way, but I haven't seen any detail about which, we had project A, it had segments A, B, and C. I haven't seen any detail like that lays out a timeline full cost. I just know that, from Spencer, we got 120, then we had a lot of discussions and I haven't seen anything since then. And I was really expecting some more level of detail than that we see at this point. And
Yeah, I can send the maps of the tier 1 and tier 2 projects. Tier 3 has been pushed back past 10 years. And then-
that's sort of what I'm.
Yeah, and a lot of that's going to be in the supplemental agreement with the actual maps and everything we're looking for. The first 2 bond tranches are only the first 2 projects, Town Center, Woodlands Parkway. We do a condition assessment, verify tier 2 needs to be done. If it needs to be done and y'all agree, move with additional bonds.
So that'll come next month.
That'll come next month with the supplemental agreements, maps and pictures, writing.
And you expect it to be passed.
With the delay, we'd be looking at around March to April.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of discussion behind it. It matches everything we've talked about before. So
Okay.
pending any changes on the actual supplemental agreement verbiage, it should be relatively quick to move forward.
So Eric, I'm trying to square, you want to say something before I kind of follow up with that?
A little bit, yeah.
Go ahead.
I could.
Go ahead. Yeah.
So because of the timing that you just heard and the timing of the JRP rate reduction, I think it makes sense to transparently show the reduction on the bills of the 11 cents, if that's what gets approved. Whatever. The GRP has to make that recommendation. SJ board has to approve it, but whatever gets approved there, that gets passed through on that line item on the bill. And then we possibly create a separate line item for the same amount for that delta. And we run that until we can figure out how the numbers work out. And we may find that, it's not really worth keeping it because it doesn't make a big enough dent in these numbers. And then we can release it, I think. But I don't think it does us any harm in putting that back on. Because if we take it off just completely until we figure it out and realize we want to whip it right back up, I don't want to do that to the customers. So I'd rather keep it, maybe grow some revenue for a month or two or until we figure it out, and then drop it if we need to, reduce it if we need to, raise it if we need to. I don't know what that's going to look like at this point, but that would at least buy us some time. It doesn't hurt anything.
Is there any, I'm asking a question, not proposing anything. Can you always do that with the next budget cycle? Is that too long?
What do you mean?
In the next budget cycle, we're talking about, we usually begin budgets in July, August.
Right.
You have a detailed picture at that time. I'm just asking, we're talking about 10 cents and we're gonna go through some decision points in March, April, May, or something like that.
Yeah.
And then we're gonna be on top of budgets and.
I think we have enough information, preliminary information on the water line stuff, and with more coming out next month, and that picture looks, fuller as far as the water line part. We don't have information on the wastewater treatment plant in the direction that goes. That obviously has another layer to this. Whatever ends up happening with that is gonna have further ramifications to the rate. So, we can probably do some financial performance based on what we know. And then what we probably could do is run some what ifs on the treatment plant and just to see magnitudes of what 100 or 300 or that million or whatever the magnitudes we use, just to run some different performance. And that'll give us rough enough numbers to be able to decide what we really need to do long-term with the infrastructure fee, or whatever we call it, infrastructure renewal fee.
Yeah.
That we don't pass through currently.
So the thing that helps, 11 cents roughly would be about $2.5 million a year for all WWA, right?
That sounds about right.
That's 11 cents times the 248. I'm just kind of doing that roughly 2.5-ish for each year, which seems to be meaningful to like the first water line project
Half of it. That's
piece of it.
It's 11 cents for everybody, and we use roughly half the water, I guess. I think I heard. So $1 million.
Oh, so drop that in half. So we're 1.25, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Still
I'm just trying to put it in order of magnitude to understand.
Still a real number that can be helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it may not be enough to do a water line project or part of the treatment plant, but we certainly have other infrastructure renewal projects that we're contemplating right now.
But your comment where I wanted to kind of probe a little bit when you said, we haven't done that in the past before. That was in response to, I think, what David said, that, well, what if one mud really needs the money or doesn't need the money that you want? You're thinking, I think you're answering saying, I want all of it to go into a bucket or across all the 10 muds the same, or not go into any bucket, all muds the same, rather than saying this mud needs it in a bucket for expenses and this one is not going to. And so some bills have it coming in, some bills don't. Is that what you're trying to keep
Yes.
consistent?
He wants the water rate to stay the
Yeah.
same for every
I
resident
mean,
in the
the
Woodlands.
charge from them is going to be the same. It's what's going back out. Kind of going back.
If I had it up to me, I'd want all 10 muds to have the same rates, not just
The net number.
All of them.
Right.
Right. We don't have that right now. If we were to split this line item up, it would get further jumbled up. I'd rather.
Okay. I just wanted to understand what that meant. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Slight change of subject, SFDUs. How's that progressing?
We're getting close.
Close?
We were actually spent several hours today on it. We now have the sixth and final and the modern version merged together. That's a big deal because then we can compare the two and really dig into any differences. And so where we're at right now is there's about 40 or 50 subsections or parcels, you can roughly call them, out of a couple thousand. So we're only down to just a few left. That in the sixth and final, they had some name, and that aligned with some geographic, a couple different tracks. And over the years, that what used to be this blob of property was now broken into 3 or 4 different parcels. And so we're trying to make sure it's apples to apples when we tie, and they're named different. So we're probably within a couple of days of having that verified. And then the final step for us will be to go back to Howard Hughes and say, okay, tract Y, we said it was this many allocation back in 2017. It's now 0 or vice versa. Just tell me what you think, and then we will have the final number. So
Maybe it's a zero-sum game, but that was going to be in the general manager's report.
Yeah.
So,
I kind of lost track.
Pulled it out here, so if we could put a wrap on agenda item 12.
Could I ask?
Are we going to
one
provide guidance to, or something?
Well, I'm hoping to get there.
Okay.
All right.
The guy can have a
Yeah.
question.
Perhaps first, before the guide.
Oh, Ed, when we built the water plant, 550 million, 500 million, 550,
Project, 500 million,
500
and
million.
that was the plant and all the pipeline. And all the engineering and all the easements and.
Okay, so if you just, you take out the water plant portion of 500 million, what's left? How much did everything else cost?
60.
I think the water plant was about 290, I thought.
The water plant's about 200,
Lines.
It may have been the other way around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Call it 250.
250, half,
Yeah.
pipeline,
Yeah.
water plant, half.
Roughly.
That's good.
Okay, if we can wrap agenda item 12 with non-binding guidance, seat of the pants type evaluation of option 1 or option 2. Why don't we say all in favor of option 1? Does it need to be restated?
Which is the
Yeah,
11
1
cent, the 11
11
cents.
That's the 11.
And then 500 going.
100 goes to 1 cent.
Option one
Option 2.
is the
Option 2.
13 cents.
Yeah.
Option 2 is 11 and 500.
Right.
Okay, thanks. Pam.
Thank you, Pam.
Say it again.
Have Pam say. Option 1 is the 13 cents
And no R&R.
and no R&R. Option 2 is the 1 cent and 500,000.
11.
11 cents. Get those pesky zeros.
Option 2B is the one you're talking about.
You have my authority. That's right.
There are no other options.
Okay.
Okay, start the process.
It's one or
Yeah.
the other.
What is it? All in favor of option number 1? All in favor of option 2?
Woohoo, we did.
Yeah, we got there. That wasn't so bad. Okay, moving right along to agenda item 13, Attorney Brian Yates. you're on.
Yes, sir. Good evening. I'll keep it brief. I know we're already kind of running long. We're gonna have a closed session. So two things to touch on for the attorney's report. One, follow up on the discussion from the last round of MUD meetings about House Bill 103. We had a number of stakeholder conferences with representatives from the comptroller's office about interpretation and applicability of that statute. That's the one that required the 10-year look back period for bond information and taxes and what have you. So staff actually took a fairly narrow interpretation that they only wanted reports from districts that had issued, that had held bond elections in that 10-year look back period. So if you just had a bond issued before that, but you'd issued bonds or, paid for projects that are previously issued bonds, they didn't want a report from those districts. So that fairly narrowed the scope. And for the Woodlands districts, that really narrowed it down just to MUD 39. That's the only one they had a defined area election. So the rest of our districts, thankfully did not have to file. It's been a bit of a mess. The reports were supposed to be due by the end of December, and the comptroller's office was so late kind of getting to a landing point and providing their form that they actually had to provide a grace period for folks to be able to file it into this year. So we did get it filed for MUD 39, but just wanted to close the loop with y'all. We did not end up needing to file based on their interpretation for the other districts. So that's House Bill 103. Second, as y'all know, elections cycle is coming around. First day to file is today. Shelley should have all of your packets available to be able to pick up and complete. Last day to file is Friday, February the 13th. As in the previous, as in previous cycles, we will be holding the election joint with Montgomery County to the extent we have contested elections. So they'll handle everything from the voting machines, the location, election officials, et cetera. So that's where we are in elections, and we'll see how that shakes out. But happy to answer questions if you have them. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brian. Agenda item 14, General Manager Peterson.
Those were, no. We hadn't.
You're exhausted. You have nothing more to add.
Well,
Okay.
those were the two big items, and then there's another one coming that I'll go over.
Okay. Okay, we can close that and go to agenda item 50.
I got a question. What's the status of our
Apparently we can't.
ditch crew hiring?
This crew hiring, we've hired one, and we continue to bring in resumes and trying to fill that group. We have already initiated a lot of work already from the ditch piping stuff, which we weren't going to do anyway. And then for some of the heavier clearing, they're actually started today, I believe, with a sub-consultant that's going to be doing the heavier stuff that we weren't able to. So we're still trying real hard to get that crew filled. But in the meantime, we've started with the heavier lifting stuff we weren't going to do anyway.
Okay.
So we're not going to have those two companies do what we were going to do. We'll still get to it.
Okay.
What about the equipment? Any equipment you need to?
We do have some of it, not all of it yet. We're going to put it on hold until we get more of these guys in.
Where's the equipment gonna be stored?
At the field office.
At the old office?
Okay. Agenda item 15, the receive staff or ad hoc updates on the following. Personnel committee, there was no meeting. Audit and finance, Ron?
As previously reported, we met with the auditors and went through the audit.
There was 2 meetings, right? One in December and one in January. Okay. And that, we voted on that, you're square. Yep. Public Education Committee, Neil?
No meeting today.
No meeting today, which kind of then rolls into agenda item 16, which also is for Trustee Gaynor.
Yes, so that is in relation to a few amendments to the strategic communications plan for the current year. And you have in your packet, starting on page 71, the red line version of the updated document. The primary purpose of making these updates was to ensure alignment with water renewal of the Woodlands messaging, so that's integrated into the strategic communication plan. And I go to page 75, I'll be brief. Under 6 strategies. So the templates will follow what are being described as 4 pillars, starting with a legacy worth preserving. And I'm just going to pull out just one excerpt for each of these to talk about key messaging strategies. So number 1, legacy worth preserving. Utility infrastructure is one of the foundational elements that supports life in the Woodlands. Homes, businesses, parks, schools, all rely on it every day. Then the second, an engaged and informed community. And the core part here, residents will be informed as studies continue and as options are explored, and we had a great discussion about options tonight. Outreach includes newsletters, meetings, frequently asked questions, and direct updates from Woodlands Water. The third item, pillar, if you will, quality services related systems. And the key core element here, Woodlands Water, STRA, and the MUDs are using engineering assessments and historical data to understand the condition of existing systems. And then finally, collaborative, future-ready decisions. Water renewal encourages the community to engage in long-term decision-making in a thoughtful, informed way. So there's a larger document that's still in flux, as it were, that the community working group will be using. But that, in summary, relates to the changes in realignment of the strategic communications plan with water renewal messaging, and we're recommending a vote for those changes.
Okay, we have a recommendation from the committee chairman. Now, what did we approve in November? I thought that we approved the base document, the trustees, but
Yeah,
these amendments.
Yeah, we reviewed, we were to generate, as reported out, a red line document or a vote. That was done.
That was approved, that was presented.
Yeah.
And
Well, it was provided in the, it's, yeah. We had approved, but we had to create the red line version of the plan. And so that's what you have in the packet.
So what I'm getting at is, do we really need a second to that, or?
No, it's a committee. It was a committee recommendation, and any committee member can comment. We can just
Go straight to the vote.
go straight to the vote.
Yeah, that's the point.
Oh, okay.
And the changes are in
red, yeah, that was the intent of,
Base document.
Yeah, every year, this was created in the fall of 2022. This is what, John and I use and our staff uses to put out all of the information that we do to the community. This is kind of the structure that we use. And so every year in the fall, we look at it to see if there's anything that needs to be modified. So this is really kind of an annual update if there's anything to adjust.
and the big change clearly is the water renewal of Woodlands. It's really been maturing in the past 18 months or so. So
Our thought was to clarify some of those things, so it was more clear on how we're communicating.
Right.
Yep.
Okay, John, are you going to give any update as far as with that? Okay, good. So we have a motion to approve the red line version of the Public Education Committee Strategic Communications Plan number 3. Further discussion required on this item? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. We put a lot of work into that. Agenda item 17, consider an act on a resolution adopting criteria for adjustment of WWA operating budget cash reserves, page 78 of the meeting packet.
So this is a resolution that was created back in 2018. It's what we utilize. It's on page 78. It's what we utilize at the end of each audit year or budget year to identify if there's a cash call or a distribution back to the MUDs based on the cash position that Woodlands Water Agency is sitting in. So typically, we need at that moment, within, I think it's 90 days, 60 days of conclusion of the audit, we look back and identify where our budget reserve is. And if it's below one month, then we consider a cash call to get us back up to 1.5. That actually happened last year. If it's above 2, then there's a distribution to the MUDs back. So no change in any of that. When we were going through the audit, that in coordination with a number of comments that I've received from directors over the last couple of years as it relates to how that pro rata of what your share would have been in the cash call versus what you'd get in a distribution. We looked at it and identified a couple things. So in section 1, I know you don't have a red line version, but the only 2 things that occurred other than changing joint powers, which is the name that's changed, and the date at the bottom. In section 1, it will read commencing the fiscal year of 2025, Woodlands Water Agency operating reserve, further defined as cash reserves. So that's the new wording. And so that's how we've been implementing it. But the auditor pointed out to us that, well, in our world, in the financial world, when you define operating reserve, that could include a number of other assets and other things. And you're really calculating
Non-cash.
non-cash. And we're saying, but you've been calculating it based on cash. So why don't you just say it? So that's option, that's item number 1 that's changed.
Okay.
Okay. Item number 2 that's changed, again, beyond the name changes and all that stuff, the minor stuff. The other thing is in section 3. So the way that the pro rata that would go back to the MUDs or that they would pay, the way that it was calculated prior was based on SFDUEs. And we looked at that, and over time, that might have worked over time, but as we have changed, we kind of went through the scenario of identifying that pro rata based on each district's equity share as calculated by as of the end of the previous year's audit. And what that would mean is basically it would be the pro rata would be based on essentially your buy-in from the previous year or your participation. And so if I do a ditch project, you pay Woodlands Water to do that ditch project. So that's your buy-in, so to speak. That's just one example. And you accumulate that, which is identified in the audit already. That equity calculation is already there, but that's not how the distribution / cash call was contemplated. It was contemplated on SFDUEs, which didn't seem to be, I think, where we are as we kind of matured over the past years. We thought that might be a better option for the MUDs. So those are the 2 changes that occurred.
So the same calculation going in is the same calculation coming out,
There you
which
go.
it wasn't before.
That's,
That's correct.
Makes sense.
So
And if you're interested in your MUD's equity, it's on page 21 in the audit. So,
yeah, I can point that out next week. I'll probably just summarize what you do tonight, and then I'll show the MUDs what exactly where that is.
Can you create a red line for them, you think?
Yeah,
I've
got mine, and I just asked if y'all get the, yeah, I understand. I recognize that.
Sooner or later, might as well do it sooner, right?
You must.
I've got that's on me. I had a late to just clean version, and I'd walked through it. And today I was looking through it and said, I don't think we should have put the right.
Sorry.
That's on me.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the resolution adopting criteria for adjustment of WWA operating budget cash reserves?
So moved.
We have a motion by trustee Gaynor. We have a second.
Second.
We have a second by trustee Wilson. Further discussion on this matter?
Not to complicate, but it is a recommendation of the audit.
Oh.
So it would fall under that same procedure.
Never mind.
You didn't know that.
Well, never mind.
You kept very quiet.
It was a secret.
Yeah.
It was a closed meeting.
Many people watch this.
Well,
Clarification.
just let us know.
Thank you. Okay, since we don't need a second, as it was a committee vote. Further discussion on this matter? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, closed session? We do need to go to closed session?
It's your.
Give the contract discussion.
We're gonna do that now? Thought we were gonna, well, we have to, well, we're not gonna.
If we want to have a discussion before they're.
Prior to the February.
Why wouldn't we do it at the February meeting?
Just gonna limit the time for folks to provide comments. I think we need to visit at least briefly.
I think briefly, it will be worth it.
Okay. Bye. We're gonna,
Can I take a quick break?
no.